What's up, guys? How's everybody feeling? It's, what, 4 o'clock? Yeah! Cool. All right, so first thing, I think we might change this title from guardrails to just kill man in the middles. That's kind of what we're doing now. So let's get into it here. So to set the framework for what I'm going to talk about, the mental way I view Bitcoin is that Bitcoin's either at rest or it's in motion, kind of like a football, right? Like it's in your custody, hopefully it's safe, it's not in the mempool, unless if you intend for your Bitcoin to be in motion, going somewhere else. And so for background, when we started Branta, we wanted to kind of solve these two problems, or at least approach them in a completely novel way. So we didn't want to build another exchange or wallet or any other tool that already exists, because there's great stuff out there. And really, all that infrastructure is scaling, it's being built out, it's very cool. So yeah, to also set the framework a bit, our ethos, I kind of already said, we want to completely solve Bitcoin at rest, but also Bitcoin in motion. And so I'll be mostly talking today about Bitcoin in motion. And then the third thing, anything we create and what we're really interested in is novel approaches for the consumer, for other businesses, and just for the Bitcoin industry. Yeah, and so let's touch on this first. Kind of when Branta launched, we were tackling the Bitcoin at rest problem of essentially what you see on the right is the Sparrow wallet icon. There's two of them. One of them is real, one of them is not real. We were trying to solve this problem for people in an automated way where you can essentially be dumb or not very tech savvy, and you can be guaranteed to be running the right Sparrow wallet or Blockstream wallet or any other software wallet. But TLDR here, we're putting this on the shelf, and we'll come back to it at some point. And to kind of sum it up in one line, like this bottom line says we got bored of the problem. So it's interesting, but the demand was not huge. The B2C model is challenging, and just execution is kind of annoying, quite frankly. Like to solve this problem of like making sure users have real wallets before install and after install as a tripwire, there's just so many different operating systems, wallets alone, then these wallets update, this is annoying. Same operating systems can have different architectures which can change the binary. So like the number of cases you need to catch here to be perfectly executed is just very tough. So we'll move on from this, but TLDR, we're not tackling this problem anymore, and what we're doing next is a little bit, it's very different, but it also falls under the same umbrella. So Bitcoin in motion, right? This is the point of money. You hold it and then you send it somewhere else, right? Doesn't matter who you are or who your counterparty is, but you're sending money from point X to point Y, right, on planet Earth somewhere. And it's quite tricky to make sure you send your money to the right place. Like most of the time it works, but it also doesn't work a fair amount of the time. You hear about people getting scammed or just making errors in their transactions. So we want to make this as foolproof as possible in a novel way. All right, we can kind of fly through this slide here. But yeah, the motivation with this is really that Bitcoin is actually quite emotional now for new users. So if you're running an exchange or if you're developing a wallet, inviting your friends on, people feel a lot of apprehension, a lot of anxiety when they make their first Bitcoin transaction, right? So maybe that means they buy on Yopaki and then they send this to one of their wallets. But this is stressful, which is good. It's kind of an emotional guardrail. But what we're doing is building codified guardrails to enable confidence. So one of the negative aspects that Branta solves here is the need for test transactions. And I'll get into this here in 1 second. So my presentation is actually quite short. There's kind of two parts to it. The first one I'm going to talk about on-device software. So this is cross-platform. That was one of the lessons we learned with our first offering. But we're built on Electron now, so it's kind of Mac, Windows, Linux. It's much faster to iterate. And the second part will be a very flexible API to solve this problem with integrations. So let's go on. So whose address? This is a question that people have. What does Branta do? We offer instant verification. If I just put up a SegWit address here or a legacy Bitcoin address, you wouldn't know if it's yours or mine or some other person's, right? So with Branta, I hope the text is big enough here. I know it's quite small from the back, but this is the Branta application running. And let me actually zoom in here. So this is free. You all can use it now. It's pre-release, so it's not super stable. Be more stable very soon. But what happens is this is a Mac computer, and the user copied a SegWit address. And Branta goes, poof, okay, this is actually your address, and it belongs to your Arculus wallet on the iPhone, and it's derivation 07. Right, so this is useful. I have a Signal application with a ton of Bitcoin addresses in my note to self. It's garbage. I don't know whose address is whose. It could be Francisco's, it could be Oliver's, it could be mine, I don't know, it could be anybody's. But now, as soon as I copy the address, Branta just sweeps that clipboard and does a quick lookup. So this is quite cool. I want this, so this is what we're building. I guess Mac preview is kind of not the thing you do to present, because I can zoom in and scroll. Anyways, okay, I have lots of wallets, no problem. You can easily connect wallets to Branta. I'll zoom in here again a bit. Here you can see there's a wallet named Trezor, Julia, and the Arculus example. And a wallet's just an XPub. We don't touch your private keys. We don't want to touch your private keys. They're yours, right? And so whenever you copy an address, you can do lookup for multiple wallets. Multi-sig, of course, we support this as well. The config here is quite nice, so you can do M of N up to, I think, 15 possible keys. This is quite cool. Right now, this is on desktop. We'll be rolling it out to mobile, but mobile's kind of annoying with the APIs for clipboards, so it's not quite as accessible like for startup and things like that. Anyways, so for what we just showed you, there's no business model for the exact piece we just showed you. Enter the API. So this is kind of our secret sauce. Yeah, cool. So this is actually the last slide, so I'll just talk here and then we'll wrap it up, I guess, rather quickly. But the API, we'll be announcing some partnerships very soon, which we're quite excited about. Some of the API integrations hook into our software. Some hook into custodians, wallets, or payment processors. Right, so kind of what I showed you with where you copy an address and we say, hey, this is your address. Soon you're going to be able to do that with friends, but also with paying people online. So this is what's coming, and we're working with commerce, right? Maybe you get an invoice or you get a checkout, and what's really happening is somebody's receiving instructions to pay somebody else. So if you remember that initial slide with X and Y, it's kind of sketchy. Like, here's this piece of information, a PDF, please pay this address. Okay, I would like to verify that, right? So if you're doing a larger deal, maybe you call the person. You say, hey, like, what's the last 8? Okay, that's fine. But you had to call somebody to make that, to have confidence, right? Maybe you send $10 first and then you send the rest of the payment. It's just annoying, there's friction, and with things like AI, this is getting much, much worse. So now you can get a phone call and this sounds like a person who you know, it's actually a computer and you're about to get wrecked. So without a codified solution, problems, and these problems are increasing massively. So the solution is actually quite simple, and the demand has been much higher for this product versus the original product we were building. So that's kind of the fraud protection on commerce. So if you're building a payment gateway, if you have friends building payment gateways, happy to talk about what we're doing and the problems that we see and the solutions that we offer. Now for custodians, there's an interesting use case here as well. So one of the use cases, maybe a person has a lot of Bitcoin on one custodian. Let's say it's an American crypto casino, right? And they want to move a lot of that Bitcoin into a Bitcoin-only custodian in maybe their own country or something with a multi-sig setup, right? So maybe the use case here is somebody is moving 100 Bitcoin from custodian 1 to 2. Same things generally apply, right? Like you just want to make sure the address is correct. Test transactions are fine. They're a little bit cumbersome. There's fees. But so with Branta, we streamline that quite effectively by just guaranteeing the address based on the XPub of that vault. So that's cool, right? Single sig, multi-sig doesn't matter. And so before, I'll scroll up. when you see this sort of notification, whether you use Mac, Windows, or Linux, you can actually see, hey, Bitcoin address belonging to your unchained multi-sig vault or your Yopaki vault. So this is quite good. If I want to move one Bitcoin into Yopaki, Branta can guarantee that by some sort of integration that says this address, yes, belongs to Yopaki because there's an Yopaki integration on the other side. So there's a lot of protections that happen with this sort of solution. And I should also say, I'll spoil a bit more, but installing Branta is friction, right? This is one of the pain points we learned is like, we have to be responsible for our own software, but something even more smooth here is we don't even build the software, we just allow you as a wallet implementer to integrate this. So for, let's say, Sparrow or let's say Ledger. If Ledger or Sparrow chooses to integrate Branta, you don't even need Branta. You can just be running Ledger. You can want to put one Bitcoin in Yopaki, and your Ledger app or your Sparrow app can, let you know should they integrate with Branta. Those are two examples, but others are coming. And those two are examples we're not working with yet, to be clear. Now, anyways, let me kind of wrap up here. I guess that kind of was the wrap up. So kind of wallet integration. Anyways, I'll stop there. If there's any questions, more than happy to take them. And yeah, thanks everybody for coming out and pushing through to the last presentation in a few minutes here.
Let's go.
No, I think it is.
On the commerce side, are you looking into like doing some like escrow system or anything like that?
We're not looking at escrow for commerce. We're looking, there's kind of two tiers, right? So the one tier is that you're not getting man-in-middled on the client. That's bad, right? If you write an NPM package or a Chrome extension that just sweeps the DOM, you can swap the address. That's the first tier. The second tier is technical error on the server side. So if you are a payment provider and you are spinning up an invoice, if you have a technical error and you show an internally consistent address to your system, but it's actually going to the wrong party, you've just finally settled to the wrong place. So that partners directly with the merchant. The first use case partners with the, I guess in your case would be Shopster. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And then at the moment, I'm assuming you're focused on on-chain. Are you going to be doing like Lightning as well?
Oh yeah. This is for L1 and Lightning. Yeah.
Okay,
So
both. Okay,
Bitcoin on-chain and Lightning, both.
Awesome.
Yeah. Thanks for your questions.
Do we have another question? Oh, gee.
No, I thought it was really cool, especially like I think it helps onboard non-coiners and people not, associated with the tech. It falls into the line of, I want to make something my grandma can push one button on and send Bitcoin. Like, that's really neat what you did.
Yeah, I mean, you could even open up with Bitcoin sucks. It's very nuts and bolts. I know we all love it, but like it's very hard to use. So there's so many improvements, and it needs to be for grandparents, children, and everybody, really. That's our vision. Yeah, thanks, guys.